Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Wednesday. It is February the 12th. I appreciate you being here. I also appreciate our chat moderator. Some of you may not know if you've never joined us on the Rumble channel. I encourage you to do so. It's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. You guys can find it very easily. You also might be able to find us over on X. But if you're on Rumble, what you'll see is that almost every morning since I started, that's 488 episodes today, a guy named Eric Jason's been in there. He's a military veteran. He's a stud. He has been with us, I think, since as far back as I can actually remember doing this thing live. And I'm really appreciative that he's there and the rest of you. So if you guys want to have one of the best chats in the internet, they are the most positive and informed and nice people. And they take care of each other. It's a community that is second to none. Some of the stories we talk about on Thursday evenings come directly out of that connection. And that's what this show means to me. And I know it means a lot to a lot of you. So thanks for being part of that for all of you that are. Today, we're going to be talking about the word dangerous, which continues to be used and bandied about by Democrats. They can't help themselves. Anything that is a change, anything that's a disruption of the status quo, they call it dangerous. How interesting, huh? Today, we're going to fixate a little bit on Elizabeth Warren because she is probably the most shrill voice, one of the most disingenuous people, and kind of one of the nastiest examples of somebody who says one thing and does something else, who is that sort of corrupt, gross politician that we all instinctively recoil from. She's fake. I don't know how she has a following. I don't know why people think that she's a hero. She used to be something of kind of a champion of the people, and it seems like she's bought her own hype. Now she's out there selling this nonsense. She's almost like the Bernie Sanders type. I guess that's why she ran for president with him. They're talking about the millionaires and the billionaires. It's quite interesting and rich for someone who's worth $12 million to try to act like she's just like the rest of us. And I include myself in the us because I'm not worth $12 million. So as my family is looking to figure out what our next year is going to look like. We had a birthday party with some neighbors last night talking about cost of housing, cost of all the regular goods that a regular American family has to spend money on, and they're high. I looked at the Heritage Foundation this morning, and I saw that they have a inflation calculator, and based on what we spend right now in this house. Now, granted, I have 4 kids, which is more than some, but we're not exceptional as far as Americans go, and we don't have exceptional taste in our costs of housing and groceries, and we don't have a car payment, but a lot of our insurance costs and everything else, they're all very similar to what you all pay. I have to imagine that we live in a suburban area. And as we look at extending and figuring out what this next year looks like for ourselves in 2025, I did a cost comparison about what we're paying right now versus what we would have been paying in January of 2020. And Heritage actually has a pretty good calculator if you want to calculate your own rate of inflation. They do it regionally. They do it by some specific cities. I used Dallas as the closest thing to Austin I could find. It's probably not that far off. It might actually be worse here, to be fair. And they said that the actual rate of felt inflation on most things is over 27% since the last year that Trump was in office, since the change in the COVID lockdowns and all the chaos that happened. 27%. I know wages haven't kept up with that for most people. And so we're experiencing this really difficult problem. And it's amazing to me that Democrats are out there campaigning. Donald Trump said he was going to bring down prices on day one. Where is he? And it's like, well, you had 4 years to F this up. And you did. Yeah. 4 years of shenanigans and waste and fraud and abuse. So we're going to be talking about the word dangerous and then also the comparison against what is it that we really voted for. For me, I voted for freedom. Some people that I know. Steve Baker, for example. It's real simple. I wanted my friend Garrett O'Boyle to be out from under the gun. I wanted my family to not be facing indictment by a DOJ. So it was very selfish. And the rest of it, whether Donald Trump would deliver or not, it was almost irrelevant. We got almost everything that I was hoping for in the first week. So I'm already winning. But we got a lot more because we got Elon Musk in here doing this DOGE thing, which I didn't vote for, but I can't tell you that I'm scared of it. I think it's amazing. It's actually hilarious. So that's what we're going to get into today. And the shocking resistance from the people that say that they want to protect the people. The regular person in America is not voting for government spending to, put millions of dollars into DEI initiatives that never benefit them in other countries. That's all I'm going to say for that. Let's go ahead and get started with a thank you to a sponsor. If you guys are dealing with some of the shenanigans online, apparently there's a shenanigans drinking game. So when I say that, it's how I don't say effery, by the way. I'd like to say swear words, but I'm trying not to. This is one way that you can avoid some of the things that kind of frustrate you in modern life. One of the ways is you put your phone into a Faraday bag, which I did just before we started. The other way is you actually start removing your information from public databases. And you can do so with my friends over at Patriot Protect. It's patriot-protect.com/Kyle. It's kind of long, but you can see it on the screen. It's very easy to follow along. One of the issues is that there are AI platforms. We're going to talk about AI in just a bit. China, they've got one called DeepSeek. They've got some other things. They've been doing hacks of various databases and then making them available. And DeepSeek is one of the ones that goes out there and trolls all the websites and data brokers and platforms, and they build profiles on you as an American to see if they can compromise you. It's not a good thing. They're going to record your name and your address, your phone number, your work history, all the things that you might put out publicly and some things that are private. And they'll use it to share with cyber criminals and with scammers and with folks that are out there that are foreign actors trying to exploit you. Maybe you have a government job. Maybe you have a sensitive job. All of these things are potential fraud, potential vulnerabilities in your life. And you can actually get away from that with what they're calling digital camouflage. It is the search and destroy protocol that Patriot Protect uses. And so the whole goal is to go out there and manually delete and get rid of all this stuff so that it's not trailing around on the internet for anyone to buy and use. It's 24/7 protection. It costs you about $5 a month. It's an annual subscription. You save 15% by using my name, KYLE. Again, the website, I'm going to say it a couple times here, patriot-protect.com/Kyle. Again, patriot-protect.com/Kyle. Let's get into some of the things that are dangerous, allegedly, if you believe the Democrats today. So let's talk DOGE, because I just think it's fun. And, one of the things that they've been claiming, leftists have been claiming for a pretty aggressive moment for the last 3 weeks, they've been screaming at the top of their lungs. These are the same people that said 2/3 of Democrats want Trump to be resisted with everything the party has, and only about 1 in 6, 1 in 7 of them think it'll be successful. So there's a mental illness block there already. But the big piece is no one voted for this billionaire. No one. I heard a speech on the House floor the other day by Brandon Gill, who's a new member of Congress. He's the son-in-law of Dinesh D'Souza, a guy I've met a number of times. I've worked with his wife on stuff like the Police State Project. He was actually an actor, he was the stand-in for the FNG, the young guy that was playing a new FBI agent in Police State. If you guys saw it, working with Nick Searcy. And he said, you don't hear a lot from Democrats calling out their own billionaires because they have the party of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and George Soros and others. Why is no one calling out billionaires unless they're the ones that are there? Now, to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of billionaires help hold a press conference in the White House, in the Oval Office. And that's something that happened yesterday, which is a little bit unusual. And another thing that's unusual and been kind of a refreshing little movement is that Elon brought his son, which is a kind of a nice throw. Like, isn't it nice to see children normalized? I've seen some folks talking about how radical that is. It's not very cool that he named his son X. That's a terrible thing to do to a boy. Like, why would you do that? But the guy's in a little suit. He's a little mini guy. He's got a bunch of kids. Yeah, Elon is not like the paradigm of morality or Western civilization, but at least he understands that children are important. And you see it with J.D. Vance as well, bringing the kids around. More of that is what I voted for, because I voted for family. to be something in America that we don't hide from. Contrast that with the last 4 years. What was that like? The infantilized grown man son of the last president was a drug addict who was apparently collecting bags of cash running all over the world, who was corrupted and was losing, electronic devices to nation state actors, opening himself up to blackmail, hanging out with prostitutes, spending 6 figures a year on prostitutes. I don't know. It's just such a change. And then you got guys like J.D. Vance in the office that are hanging out with Trump. You've got a billionaire with a bunch of kids who brings his kid with him when he goes and carries him on his shoulders the way that I do. You know why you carry your kid on your shoulders like that? Is because your child will escape and go do wild things. I did this literally last night at a pizza place. It's like I put my daughter right up on my shoulders. She's 18 months old. If I put her down, she just walks up and starts looking at people, and they look at her, and she's super cute. I don't want anybody to run off with my baby. So he's walking around normalizing things that are just not that crazy. And he's saying things because he's got a bunch of these young people that have a sense of efficiency. It's kind of funny. There's maybe it's an irony that as you get older, you get more patient. You guys probably have that same experience. I'm in my 40s, so I'm more patient than I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, like everything had to be right now. And there's an imminence and there's a value in taking people that want to see things right now and putting them into government spaces. Because the government's attitude is like a 10,000-year-old lady, like moving like molasses. There's all kinds of, nasty military things that move like old people make love. Let's say it that way, right? That's a thing that we say in the military when you are not moving with a sense of urgency and haste. We don't like that, by the way. That it's much more colorful when you're in the military end of it. But government moves at a speed that is disgusting to people that work business. It's disgusting to people that actually want to see results. And the hope, I have to assume, is that they think they're going to just outlast you by just not being efficient. Some of you guys may have seen this movie. It's called Zootopia. And it's a kid's movie. And it teaches a lesson very early on that the people at the DMV are all staffed with sloths. It's a bunch of different animals filling different roles. And there's predators and there's prey and all this kind of thing. But the DMV is perfectly staffed to make Americans laugh. Because the DMV is staffed with sloths who are moving essentially in slow motion while everyone is not. And ironically, the lead character inside the DMV, his name is Flash, because he doesn't move quickly, which is quite funny for all of us that have ever worked around government. I've experienced this myself. I had a lady working in the finance division at the FBI's field office in DC, and she was a classic government employee. She was about 400 pounds overweight, which is to say she was close to 500 pounds. I'm not exaggerating. That was how big she was. Her chair was destroyed by an enormous body that just fell over the top of it. She walked with a cane because she was too big to walk without it, and that's okay. And she didn't do her job. She spent her time on Facebook, not doing her job, not doing finance, not actually being like, well, I'm a really fat person, so I better at least be efficient at what I do. No, everything was exactly like a sloth. You ding the bell. And about 14 to 20 seconds later, she would turn slowly to see where she was. She didn't want to throw her neck out because she had a big fat shoulder in the way of her face. And this was just classic government. It's like, okay. And what was my big complaint about the finance office there? I actually told them they should replace them all with robots. This is kind of what Elon seems to be doing. The complaint that I had was that they got a request for reimbursement from me. It was the same amount that my friend had claimed 2 weeks earlier. So they just paid my friend a second time because they already had that set up. So they just hit repeat. I'm not even kidding with you. This is the FBI, which is supposed to be an organization that people think of as being elite. When I hear the crying that is going on for putting these federal employees at risk, I can only say good, like Jocko style good. Let it happen. And so this inefficiency that's been going on and the push against it, which has been moving very quickly in the last couple weeks, that's what I didn't know I always wanted, but God, I always wanted it. And here's a great example coming from that White House press conference. The funniest thing is that Elon, for all the speed that I'm sure his mind moves, he is such an inefficient communicator. He kind of like, and I understand the spectrum thing, and I understand that this is not what he set out to do. His special talent is probably not giving press conferences. But look at this. You got Donald Trump sitting at the Resolute desk, and he's just chilling. And he was like, let me throw this over to my buddy who's going to go out here and lob some grenades that are going to hurt your feelings. Go. Donald Trump is a good communicator. He speaks at a level that is less articulate than it needs to be, but it fits the average American's attention span perfectly. And then you've got this guy, Elon Musk, out here, who's going to have his kid talk over him, and he says something that when you hear it, you're like, there's no way that's true, unless you've ever worked in government. He's about to tell you that the reason that we cannot retire more people more quickly, and that why people are held up in retirement. And if you know anybody that's ever tried to retire from the federal government, this is a real, serious undertaking. They tell you start months in advance, file your paperwork, give them a long ramp, because it's not going to happen quickly. He says the problem is because it's all done on manual paperwork that is stored in a mountain, in a vault. It's called Iron Mountain, so he's not making this stuff up when you start listening to him. And it was built in 1955. Now, it's obviously been modernized, and I'll show you some pictures, but I don't think the government part of it is, which is the funniest piece. Listen to how insane this sounds in 2025, that we are limited by the speed of access to a mine shaft or a mined tunnel inside of a mountain when everything else is digitized. The joke in the FBI used to be that the technology department would deliver yesterday's technology tomorrow. I'm going to say it again. This is the FBI's IT motto unofficially. Yesterday's technology tomorrow. The goal of the Kyle Seraphin Show, what I do in my private life, because I move at the speed of me, is that if I need the technology, I just buy it. If the government needs the technology, they study it, they think about it, they decide if it's going to be good, they break it by trying to make it secure, and then they buy it 2 years after the fact. So the newest computer I ever got was 3 years old. Imagine what a 3-year-old computer can do compared to a new computer in your life. Just think about that. And then listen to this clip. Ready? Here's Elon discussing it. I love the Trump throwover. They act like he's somehow usurping the president. Like, I think Trump is happy to be out of the spotlight and let his buddy just talk, because it's funny as hell.
The most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way.
That seems totally reasonable. By the way, here's pictures of Iron Mountain. If you've never seen it, it is literally a semi-truck size hole in the side of a mountain, and it is reinforced with significant concrete and fluorescent lights coming out of the 1950s and 60s, and you can drive into it, and there are obviously some more modernized versions of it, and they offer all kinds of different power and universal power backups, and it's got 72 hours worth of fuel, and it's supposed to be able to withstand all kinds of crazy stuff. But then if you look on the far side of the screen, you see the government vaults, which are not the super high-tech, liquid-cooled areas for servers and universal upload and uptime. No, there are a bunch of, it looks kind of like a more lit version of the vault at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the warehouse where they store the Lost Ark, right? Where all the government artifacts and things go. There's even a freaking wooden chest that is stuffed into some sort of, ancient shelving units. Concrete floors, limestone ceiling, fire extinguishers kind of piped in after the fact. And yeah, if you've never seen a government building right next door to like a modern building, you'll walk into them both. On the outside, they look the same. And on the inside, you're like, oh, the worst possible solution to anything even when it's the only solution, is government. And government finds the worst way of doing it. They're lazy as hell. There's a reason why they don't do stuff like this. Infrastructure takes time away. The most efficiency I ever got squeezing out of a federal job is when I moved into a surveillance unit where our budget and our technology was not tied to the things that were going to be spread across the entirety of the organization. It was only for the 10 people that I work with. And they'd be like, here's our budget. Go solve a problem. I'd be like, cool. We're going to get some vaults. We're going to get some truck drawers. We're going to get some radio systems that work. We're going to get a custom backpack because I'm going to go out and buy North Face backpacks rather than wondering what sort of weird government nonsense is. I'm going to go to Amazon like you do to solve the problem. The amazing thing is this really upsets the people over at CNN. So Stephen Collinson, who's someone we regularly read here because he's almost always the lead article that does quote unquote analysis. There's no other way to claim like that this is analysis, but you're seeing on the screen his headline, Elon Musk shows why he's such a powerful ally for Trump and why he'd be an even more menacing enemy. I actually have the best breakdown of this. It's done by Joe Rogan, who knows Trump now, at least from the interview, knows Elon Musk from a couple of interviews. He actually has a fantastic take. It's full of swearing, so we'll save it for a little bit here. But let me just read the CNN piece for the opening here. Elon Musk's Oval Office address showed why he's such a menacing foe for the federal government and why Donald Trump is playing with fire by ceding so much power to him. Did you feel like he was playing with fire there by letting a man who's wearing a t-shirt and a nice overcoat just say the things that he's asked him to go do? Is that ceding power? What an interesting thing. Portrait of George Washington, Gaze from the Wall. Oh, this is called atmospherics, by the way. In writing, we call it atmospherics, where you set the scene and you let the audience understand, the reading audience. You understand the mood. And the mood is George Washington gazing from the wall at his distant predecessor, putting on a show with his billionaire friend. Like, you can almost do it in hushed tones. It should be in parentheses and italics. Elon Musk in a black MAGA hat and a long dark coat with his son X sometimes perched on his shoulder was framed by an ornate window as snow floated down outside. I'm going to remind you that when you open this article up, it says analysis by Stephen Collinson. What analysis is being done there? How about melodramatics? And this is the reason why the media has lost so much credibility, because of stuff like this, which is complete crap. There's nothing in there. The pair made their strongest defense yet of Elon Musk's operation to purge government spending, which is imperiling the basic services and medical research and desecrating. Desecrating is saved for sacred and holy spaces. Desecrating the world's largest foreign aid mission that has saved millions. I would put ... NFI. In the intelligence world, we use NFI to mean no further information. It's when you make a claim and then you don't substantiate it. They're actually taking this as being rote fact that U.S. aid and the things that Elon Musk has been gone after are in fact non-controversial and they're not debatable. Desecrating the world's largest foreign aid mission that has saved millions. One of the wildest things that I showed my wife yesterday, the two of us just marveled at it, is that Norway has shut down some of its foreign aid projects after U.S. aid has been halted. Do you want to know why Norway supposedly has shut down some of their foreign aid? Because the foreign aid that they were getting from the United States to the tune of $150 million can no longer be turned around and given to someone else on their behalf. In other words, the United States was funding Norway's foreign aid efforts. Norway wasn't taxing their citizens, taking the money, and then turning around and handing it off to some sort of third party. No, they were the second party in a chain. So U.S. aid was apparently funding other governments' foreign aid pet projects. That's how flippin' insane this is. And anyone who's worked in government goes like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. What would be the least efficient way to distribute something? I've seen other news agencies right now, I think the AP is decrying the fact that there might be hundreds of millions of dollars of food that will spoil. Which leads me to ask, why is the United States hoarding hundreds of millions of dollars in food in foreign aid if the purpose of it is to give it to people who are in fact going to starve? Food is one of those things that oftentimes does not have an infinite shelf life. So why would you not be trying to distribute it as quickly as possible? And the answer is because private charity, generally speaking, is much more efficient. They understand spoilage and waste and things like business because the people who are doing it out of their own time and they care about it. And the people who are doing it in government are doing it because they get a paycheck and they do not give two shites. Donald Trump called out another thing that a lot of us have questions on. We're going to get to the Elizabeth Warren portion of this in a second. The question is how do you work for the federal government and end up retiring with, let's say, 8 figures in net worth? Now, maybe you have a very wealthy spouse, and that's fine. Yeah, you know? And good to you if you happen to win the lottery. Or you happen to make a brilliant investment. Maybe you bought Bitcoin when it was, you know, dollars or pennies. Maybe you decided to buy Amazon stock before anyone knew that this was going to catch on. And then you saw suddenly that government contracts went everywhere. Wait a minute. Did you happen to work for an agency that was going to spend billions of dollars with Amazon before you did an Amazon investment? Because that seems problematic, doesn't it? How many of these people are using government inside information? How many of them are actually straight up stealing from the American taxpayer because there are hundreds of millions of dollars of food that's going to go to waste? What other things were they spending our money on? We find out. And it's a lot. Like I said, $150 million to Norway or to the Netherlands to be able to turn around and spend it somewhere else. I got to have to get the story just right because I don't remember exactly. I knew it was a Scandinavian country. It's like, what the hell? Anyway, Donald Trump is kind of interested in this too. A guy who worked in private business, he's asking questions like, hey, how do you make all this money? And that's going to lead us to Elizabeth Warren in just a moment, who claims that she's just like all of us. It's hard to believe that. This is another little clip from that press conference where Trump's like, hey, Elon, talk about the thing where people are retiring with $30 million from a government salary. Can you please?
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
et cetera?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But there seems to be mysterious.
It is a little bit mysterious, isn't it? Yeah, what the hell's going on there? How did that end up happening? And so the co-headline to all of this stuff has been that Elon Musk might be actually having a lot of conflict of interest. He's going to come and steal your money, right? There it is. This is the second article that it wants to link you to. This is CNN's take. Elon Musk touts DOGE transparency, but he's downplaying his own potential conflict of interest because Elon Musk is a really, really rich guy, and really rich guys are trying to screw you over. So saith the Democrats, the same ones that have been giving lip service to people like Bill Gates, who's made a ton of money on things that are sketchy, but maybe good for him, maybe. George Soros, who's had inordinate access to White House policy, whose son has been running around, getting involved with, taking pictures with all kinds of prominent politicians like he's buying them. That's interesting. Does it mean that he is? No. But they don't seem to have a problem with that. It's not universally problematic. So we're going to do Elizabeth Warren in a second, and then like I said, I'm going to break down probably the best way of describing it, which Joe Rogan did a fantastic job of doing so. Before we do, let me say something. Somebody who is definitely not trying to steal your money. They're trying to earn your money and your business. Valentine's Day is coming up. I think they've got a special code right now. I think it's Valentine's 50. It won't give us any credit, but I just would rather you guys get a deal if you're looking for a tumbler. Patriot Coolers is our longest serving sponsor. They have been with us since almost the beginning of this, back in the days when we were sitting in a trailer with an extension cord. It's patriotcoolers.com. My promo code is KYLE. So if you're buying anything that is not a tumbler, check out my promo code. If you want to buy one, get one for 50% off. That turns out to be a slightly better deal, and you can do that for Valentine's Day. Buy one for someone you love. Honestly, if you buy one for someone you love, you should buy one for yourself too, so you don't steal it, because otherwise you'll end up doing that. I end up buying in twos. Mine is black. Here's my 19-ounce coffee mug, which I use almost every day, and certainly when we go to church on Sundays. It's easy to travel with. My wife has an identical one. It's just a slightly different color, so we know whose is whose, because somebody is going to end up breaking the lid, and it's probably going to be me, because I travel with mine. Check out Patriot Coolers. And if you're looking for a long-term option for keeping your food cold, I literally use it every single week. I tell you guys this regularly because I do. Every time I open up the back of our minivan, there lives the 50-quart Patriot Coolers major cooler, and I keep meat and cheese and groceries and stuff like that when we guys go to Costco, when we do our grocery runs, which are more expensive than they used to be, but they're an outstanding company. So if you're in the market, if you're looking for something like that, especially as we're coming into spring and RV season and other things, being outdoors, check out my friends over at Patriot Coolers. Let's keep pushing forward. I want to do this lady. I want to just talk about this lady. Elizabeth Warren had a prominent feature on my social media feeds and my internet like news curated feeds. The Democrats are vowing to fight the shutdown of the Consumer Watchdog Agency. Over 190 House and Senate Democrats have sent a letter vowing to protect the Consumer Finance Protections Bureau. This was Elizabeth Warren's pet project, and it got signed in by Barack Obama. I watched a couple of pieces over at CBS and another one at ABC. I couldn't rip the videos for you, but it's very ominous music. That same sort of nonsensical theatrics. And these people are performers. Elizabeth Warren is maybe one of the worst actors and performers, straight up. She's so disingenuous. She supposedly is just a regular girl from Oklahoma. She's just like you. She's just going to get me a beer. Nobody says that in real life. Here she is talking about a young lady who must be deluded and crazy because she supposedly only had $6 in her bank account and she gave Elizabeth Warren $3 of those dollars, and that's what we need to continue this fight. Her voice is so disingenuous. I'm going to take things that didn't happen for 500, Alex. There's no chance this story is actually true, that a girl only had $6 in her bank account as a college student and then also happened to give 3 of them to freaking Liz Warren. And if that was something and Elizabeth Warren said, you know what, I'm going to take your $3 and that's fine, she's a bad person. She should have given $3 back to that girl if this was a real story, if she was the thing she claims to be. Enjoy.
I tell you, there are so many people who are in this fight for all the right reasons. You know me, did the speech and then afterwards did a selfie line, and we were there for over an hour. And people are coming through and they're saying thank you, and they're giving hugs and talking about what's important to them. Young woman came up by herself and she said, I'm a broke college student with a lot of student loan debt. And she said, I checked and I have $6 in the bank. So I just gave $3 to keep you in this fight. That's what we got to do. We got to stay in this fight with people who are counting on us. This isn't about fighting other Democrats. This is about fighting for the America we believe in.
Yeah, that's the America she believes in. Now, this was when she was running for president. So, of course, lies on the campaign trail are nothing new. But acting like you're not a rich person is pretty rich to people like me. And so when you tell me that it's dangerous, her words, dangerous to try to shut down this Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, how many of you have benefited from that? I'd actually genuinely like to know if any of you have benefited from the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau signed in and created and enacted in like 2009. It was early Barack Obama work on the urgings of Liz Warren. This is her pet project. How many of you have benefited from it? Let me know. And I will correct my statement that I will not, because as it stands right now, I know 0 people who have benefited. Apparently, 200 million people have been saved. That's a lot. You'd think I've met one of them. 200 million people in a country of 350 million. Those are the claims being made by the mainstream media. But again, it's the pet project of this lady who says rich people, they're not like us. Being worth, if you guys don't know her net worth, we're going to show you that in just a second here. But here she is making claims that rich people are supposed to live in the same America that we all do. She's obviously living on a fantasy planet because 1, she's not like us. And 2, rich people do live in the same America you do. They walk amongst you. They may have a different standard of living. They may not be concerned about the same things that you are every day, but they're just like you.
Starts now in the 2020 race and how we run this race. I believe in an America where rich people may have more shoes than the rest of us. They may have more cars than the rest of us. Shoot, they may have more houses than the rest of us. But they shouldn't have a bigger say in our democracy than the rest of us.
What are you talking about? When I hear that democracy, you guys know we think here of majoritarianism, the tyranny of the majority, the we're going to crush you because we're the ones who have 50% plus 1. They don't care about the minority. As long as they're in power, it's all about them. And we know that for a fact. What is Liz Warren worth? Here is Nick Sorter kind of chasing her down, asking her why she's scared of transparency. Why does she have to be like that? It's a worthwhile question. I would like to know why she's like that. I don't know what makes a woman turn into Elizabeth Warren. Like I said, she wasn't crazy 20 years ago. The things that that she was selling, even in her own book, The Two Income Trap, seemed eminently reasonable, like an intelligent person that might disagree with me on policy but wasn't a bad faith actor. And then you got this.
The shutdown. So Senator Warren, why are you so afraid of transparency? Why are you bothered by the fact that Elon Musk is attempting to expose all of this fraudulent spending? What is that about? What is the problem here? What is the problem with transparency? Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth on a $200,000 salary in Congress? How did you do that?
Isn't that the same question that Elon Musk was just asking, that Donald Trump was just asking? How do you become worth $12 million when your salary is $200,000, under $300,000? How does that happen? And here you go. Just looking on the screen right now, what you're watching is kind of a throwback back to when she was 30 years old. Now she's 75. And you're just seeing the net worth grow. And every couple of years, it just increases and it increases. And that's supposed to happen. That's pretty normal. But her net worth was $100,000 the year I was born. And in that time, 43 years, she's managed to amass $12 million from $100,000. That's pretty good investing. That's better than most. And she's not like regular people, if that's the case, because there's some big jumps in there from 100,000 to 400,000 in 10 years. Yeah, I get that. Getting up to 2 million in another couple of years, that's kind of wild. And then from the 2 to the 12 makes you ask questions like, oh, what's happening here? It's the normal questions that normal people would ask. Instead, you've got people like CNN calling Elon Musk the disruptor in chief. He's a real problem for people because he's disruptive and we don't like it. And he's trolling the media because he made them say big balls by hiring a kid who's young and ambitious and probably smarter than CNN hosts, who's been going out there and looking for government inefficiencies, which is very easy to find. It's a target-rich environment. The question is how much can you do? And they went and found out, like a hit piece on him, because they were like, oh, this guy is known as big balls. And saying big balls is only okay when you are quoting someone that you hate, if you're on CNN or ABC or MSNBC or any of these places. And so Elon Musk has decided to troll them. This is the single biggest argument. Again, I didn't know I voted for this, but I am here for it all day long. This is what I really want. I want Elon Musk to change his name on Twitter occasionally, now known as X. I want him to change his X name and get hosts like, I think this is Dana Bash saying it, to be appalled and yet still say it out loud. Listen to this. There's nothing funnier than getting the richest man in the world to pull the strings of these idiots. They're like puppets.
Disruptor in chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning, democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real judge. And as for the commander-in-chief...
What was that? He changed his name to Harry, Harry Balls, Bolz, and got Dana Bash, who takes herself very seriously as a media host, and she is on a very serious network of CNN, where they have very serious atmospheres in their very serious analysis. It's hilarious. Gotcha, you clowns. Meanwhile, they're crying about the idea that he is stealing their money. I just showed you Liz Warren, who's just like us. She's going to get me a beer, but she's worth $12 million now at 75. And they're worried about a guy who's 20 years younger, who's worth how much money? Like 400 billion? This is Joe Rogan breaking it down. There's some swearing in this, so if you're at work, you got to turn it down, so be it. If you got kids in the car, I'm giving you fair warning, but he nails it. And when I did it, my wife almost clapped when I played this for her. This is straight up exactly what's going on.
Organization. That's fucking amazing. And then this other thing about Elon. Elon's going to steal everybody's money. He has $400 billion. I'm telling you, he's not going to steal your money. I'm telling you, that's not what he's doing. What he's doing is he's a super genius that's been fucked with. Okay? And when you've been fucked with by these nitwits that hide behind 3-letter agencies, and you're dealing with one of the smartest people alive, and he helps Donald Trump get into office, and he goes, I want to find out what kind of corruption is really around. Well, you fucked up. You fucked up and picked the wrong psychopath on the spectrum, because he's going to hunt you down. He's going to find out what's going on. And that's good. That's good for everybody. That's how you should be looking at this. Like, wow, we have a brilliant mind that is examining these really fucking corrupt and goofy systems and bringing in a bunch of psychopath wizards.
psychopath wizards, aka big balls, aka people who might say racist things on Reddit, which is still legal in America. You could still say things that offend other people. At least you used to be able to. Meanwhile, they're out there trying to act like everything is a moral argument. We've made the argument here before to you, and I think many of you understand what I'm talking about. The cross-eyed bear that we all have. One day I'll tell that story again on this podcast. But the cross-eyed bear that we're all dealing with is that we've sort of internalized this 1990s compassionate conservatism that when we say something like the video we had the other day that was like, the guy's like, we gotta celebrate our differences, ching chong ching chong ching. We're hearing the ching chong ching and we're like, oh no, you can't talk like that. Because we were programmed like that. If you were in your teens or 20s in the 90s, you know that stuff is like, oh, you're hitting the third rail of what's acceptable in public. And we're kind of rolling some of that back. You got a bunch of kids that don't know any better, don't care anymore, grew up on the internet. Shit posting is what they call it. Just saying the word. That's what they call it. They're out there just trolling, poking people the way that kids have always done. It used to be called punk rock. Now it's called, shit posting. That's what they do online. They're out there just pissing off adults by saying things that nobody wants. The grown-ups wouldn't say that. They wouldn't dare communicate that way. And then it's like, we're like, thank God. The kids are supposed to do that. They're supposed to upset the status quo. They're having a moral argument with you. They're saying that you think that you are allowed to talk like this. It's like, welcome to America. You're allowed to talk any way you want. That's why you got these groups. And this guy looks like he should be wearing dangly earrings, doesn't he? I know he doesn't have lipstick. I know it's just bad lighting. This is a Episcopal reverend who's clearly a hard leftist. It's not a serious person. 27 different religious groups have sued the Trump administration to protect houses of worship from immigration arrests. The idea that you have somehow sanctuary, even though, so now we're going to move the sanctuaries. It's not going to be cities because that doesn't work anymore. Pam Boddy's going to go out there and sue the cities. They're going to go after, and they're going to say, we're going to hold our political position inside of a house of worship. I say revoke it. I don't care if it's a Catholic house of worship. I don't care if it's my own church. Revoke their tax exempt status if that's going to be the case. If you're going to play politics with religion, then get out. Can you have a moral standing which has a political outcome? Absolutely. For sure. There should be advocacy from the pulpit saying what is and is not right and righteous within your own religious structure. Yeah. There are ways that you cannot vote if you are a Christian. You cannot vote for abortion policies and still be a Christian. You can't hold those positions. You have something that is not jiving. You have to be a leftist. And there's a lot of people on the hard left that live inside Christian churches, Catholic churches as well. A lot of Catholics have some really non-Catholic ideas. 27 different religious groups. They want to sue Donald Trump. And they're going out there talking about it. And they're defaming the administration. Meanwhile, and these groups are the Episcopal Church. There's the Union for Reformed Judaism. So you have that. You've got Mennonites. You've got whatever the hell this thing is, Unitarian Universalist. That's not a church. That's just people who hang out together and wear rainbow flags, I think. They filed a lawsuit in the District of D.C. It says that the new policy is spreading fear of raids and thus lowering attendance at worship services. If you're illegal in the United States, if you don't have a legal status to be here, then probably you should be worried wherever you go. And it doesn't matter if you go to a church or anything else. There's no such thing as the federal government can't come grab you. I guarantee you, I have been trained up on federal law. I used to have to enforce it. I would have been one of the guys that would go and do an arrest. And there's nothing that says you cannot conduct an arrest at a church. There's money laundering that happens at churches. There's sexual abuse that has happened at churches of all varieties. There's immigration violations if you choose to keep people that violate immigration laws at your church. It's a thing. Deal with it. The statement that's being given here is by again, it's a most reverend, which I assume is like a bishop in the Episcopal Church, which is kind of like, yeah, he's the presiding bishop. We have immigrants, refugees, and people who are documented and undocumented in our parish. And we cannot worship freely if some of us are living in fear. How about F you, dude? How about if you broke the law and you're harboring people that broke the law? Like, why don't you call them in? Then you don't have to worry about the people that don't want to be bothered by it. Maybe don't try to violate federal law in the country that you live in. You can render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and Caesar gets the illegals. So saith Tom Homan, who also told the Pope to butt out. But this is a religious situation here. And they want you to just like sort of fall over because they're going to call you a bad person. And it used to work. And some of the pushback has happened culturally, and some of the pushback has happened politically, and some of it is happening right now in a real world time by a guy who's got a lot of money calling himself Harry Balls online because we're just not going to play the same game. This is a Michael Knowles clip that I liked. We're just going to have to play the game. They can't play it back because their logic is inconsistent. It's the same reason as the what is a woman just eats these people's lunch. We played it a little bit yesterday. The mentality problem. Would you rather have free college, which you claim is a really good, or free abortions? And women who are outside of reproductive age are saying we'd rather have free abortions. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You want your daughters to be able to get free abortions and kill their babies instead of having free education? Like, neither of those things are going to be free. We're all going to pay the highest rate possible through government. But what a ridiculous claim. So why don't we just claim to say we identify as being right? Which is kind of the tip-off that none of this stuff stands any scrutiny. It's a fun little clip. I'm just going to play it to you. This is a woke interviewer trying to play a game. Michael Knowles knows the game, so it's kind of fun to watch. And of course, he's a Catholic, so I'm behind that. You guys don't have to love Daily Wire to love people getting owned when they're dumb.
Does it bother you to use inclusive language?
I prefer to use precise language.
It's interesting because you come into this conversation, trying to hold this moral superiority, but then I
try to be moral when I can, but
Right, but when I use inclusive language, which it only takes a couple extra syllables to use inclusive language.
To include who?
It seems to include people who don't, identify as women but can become pregnant.
So you're telling me that in order to be a moral person, I need to accept the idea that a man, someone who is born a man and looks like a man, can really become a woman. That's a prerequisite of my being a moral person.
I mean, yes. To me it is, because if you are trying to deny someone of their identity and deny what their life experience is, then that doesn't seem like a moral stance to me. I want to be accepting, and I want to respect people's life experiences and respect the way that they want to identify and respect the way that they want to present themselves to the world.
Bronte, I would like to identify, I do identify actually, as the correct person on this issue of abortion. I identify as being correct and more correct than you on this issue. And I would just ask that you accept and affirm my identity.
Well, you are not a medical professional, and abortion and pregnancy is a medical concern. That's not your identity.
That is my identity. I promise you, that's my identity.
That is his identity. It's all of our identity. Immediately she goes to credentialism, doesn't she? She immediately goes to an appeal to authority, which is that you're not a medical doctor. It's like, well, number one, neither are you. Number two, you're not a politician. You're not any of these things. You're not a priest. You're not a pastor. You're not a theologian. How dare you tell me what is and is not moral? He just made their brain explode with using their own words against them, because you can't live in a world where everybody gets to have a subjective truth. It's one of the things that I'm so interested in. I just spent 5 hours yesterday. And yes, the interview coming up this Sunday is going to be very long. Not 5 hours long, but God, it was long. But the story was important. I spent a bunch of time talking to Stuart Rhodes. You'll know that he got 18 years. He was convicted of seditious conspiracy and some other charges as well, and was just let out of prison. That's another thing that we voted for, right? Some of us did. That the J6 injustice, and listening to his story, I got to relive some of the insanity of what's going on and what they've done to our institutions and how they weaponized them and what it means. It is a real crisis when the government decides to come after its citizens and it abandons all of the standards that existed before it. The idea that you are unburdened by what has been. They're unburdened by the burden of proof, which actually lays on the government. The government is supposed to go out there and decide and say, okay, we have a good case and we are going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. No reasonable person could doubt that this is the case. We're going to do that. And then while they are arguing to the jury, both the judge and the prosecution team up against the defense, the citizen, for whom the system is supposed to protect the innate right and the innocence until proven guilty. This presumption that you are not guilty just because we accused you. You have to be proven guilty. And they went out there and they said, you can basically abandon all that thought. You don't even have to use those sort of presumptions. You can walk away from everything that has been in all of our jurisprudence for the history of this country and all of English common law, and you can just do what you feel is right. And don't you feel that the people that were at the Capitol on January 6th, don't you feel that they were evil? It's a moral argument. It's a feelings-based argument. It's a feminine argument because it's an argument to emotion and not logic, reason, rationality, not fact patterns as you're supposed to go out and do when you're involved in federal law enforcement. How is that possible? But apparently we have a constitutional crisis because Elon Musk is out there determining what the hell you spent our money on, and you don't like it because it looks really bad. It looks terrible what you've done with our cash. Do a quick break here and breathe. My friends at Shield Arms make a fantastic product. I actually carry their magazines every day. I carry their magazine well every day. I carry their magazine catch release, which is steel, and it's an upgrade on my Glock 43X. That's my daily carry right now, if you guys want to know. I carry a 43X with a hollow sun closed emitter on top called the EPS, and almost all the pieces on it, aftermarket, are Shield Arms. I even bought one of their aftermarket barrels, which is quite good. The website is shieldarms.com. The promo code KYLE will save you between 5 and 10% depending on what you buy. Check it out. They'll even let you save money on firearms, whole firearms. And when I was showing them to people in the gun world, I've showed it to Green Berets who have their own shops. I've shown it to gun dealers. My dealer down the street from me actually said he loves selling Shield Arms folding lowers, because they are an actual improvement. They aren't just like a better look. They're actually a better product that is being made by almost anybody out there. And once someone holds it, they're like, oh, dude, it's worth the money to upgrade to a lower that actually folds and is integrated. They make this outstanding product. So whether you are upgrading your existing lower, whether you're going to build a gun on a platform, check out my friends over at Shield Arms. Their standalone guns are excellent, whether they're pistol caliber carbines or whether they're 5.56 or 300 blackout rifles, all good. But if you want to step into like, take your own gun to the next level, get yourself something that folds in half. You can actually take the overall length of your gun and put it into a backpack, and it is a big, big deal. You guys are making fun of me for nerding out on my sponsorships. Anything that is gear related, that is sponsored, if there's a tangible product and I use it, I am their biggest salesperson. Like I could sell you the belt that I'm wearing right now that I've been wearing for like 7 years. I should reach out to Relentless Tactical. Anything that I wear, I stand behind because I've tested the living hell out of it, and I've tried to figure out what the best option is, and they're the best option for what it is. I love my Shield stuff. In fact, it's what's on my wall right now. It's on my wall in my bedroom. If I have to grab a gun in the middle of the night, you're getting hit with 300 blackout rounds coming in subsonic with a suppressor from Dead Air and a rifle that was built by my friends at Shield Arms. So that's my nighttime gun, and my daytime gun is also fueled that way. That's straight up nerd gun stuff, 100%. But let's go into what the catastrophe, the meltdown. I'm going to go hit a bunch of these things just real quickly. AP is blocking a reporter. I'm sorry, the AP says that Trump is blocking a reporter. There could be other reasons why. For not using the Gulf of America, which, by the way, even Google has updated. So they're claiming that this is a violation of the First Amendment. It's the same thing that you're hearing. We have a First Amendment right to worship in our houses. We want to be able to have illegal aliens worship in our services and not be scared of being arrested, even though they broke the law. You don't have that right. That's not a right. You broke federal law, you might get arrested. It's not a First Amendment issue. Same story. You don't have necessarily any right. There's a lot of people who get discriminated against who cannot fit in because the White House briefing room is only so big. And if they make a decision, like they did under the Biden administration, like every single administration has quietly pulled credentials from people they didn't like in there, too bad. You don't get to go in. They're crying about it. CBS is covering it. Why? Because everybody in this little clique, this little team, they want to back each other up. They affirm and they support what's going on. And that's why I'm seeing the talking points mounted out about constitutional crises. There's a Pink Floyd song in this one, so deal with that. But the constitutional crisis, apparently that has been floated to all the people, and now everybody is marching out and are on the same tune. We're dealing with a constitutional crisis. A group of people that don't know what the Constitution is, have not read the Constitution, and certainly haven't respected it in the last 4 years. This is like a football match where whoever has the ball gets to play and run as hard as they want, and the other team constantly appeals to the refs. The refs are the American people. I think we're getting burned down on this stuff. Here's the constitutional crisis.
That is a constitutional crisis.
Causing a constitutional crisis.
In constitutional crisis.
We are in a constitutional crisis.
That this is a genuine constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
What crisis the country has faced.
Constitutional crisis.
Who's calling it a constitutional crisis? Headlong into a genuine constitutional crisis.
All right, and you can not hear, it's not a great cut, so whoever mixed that, shame on you, did a bad job on it. But the constitutional crisis talking point has been pushed out a lot. I'm sure we'll get dinged on YouTube for using Pink Floyd in the background. The constitutional crisis talking point is out there. And it's funny when reality runs right into talking points. The other talking point is these people just came here for a better life, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to believe they all came here. The NPR folks are actually running this story, which is borderline hilarious. I don't know who Joe Burrow is. So someone let me know. It sounds like he's a quarterback for the Bengals, but that doesn't mean anything to me. But his mansion was burglarized by people who came to the United States with the express purpose of engaging in burglaries at high-end homes, stealing their crap, and then running off, and then posting pictures of themselves acting like little a-holes. So here you have some soft-faced kid wearing like a Louis Vuitton hat. There's some Louis Vuitton luggage and purse and bags and stuff, which I don't understand the value of, but whatever. They cost money, and they're not yours, and you take them. Put these assholes in a trebuchet and send them over the wall. Seriously, they suck. I could just look at them and tell you that I wouldn't like any of them being around there. You're going to flick off the camera. You're going to wear somebody else's jewelry. You broke into their home and then posed with all of your stolen goods. Throw them in a trebuchet, throw them right out. It's like the guy who does the meme from Portlandia. He's like, right to jail, straight away. You'll be surprised, right to jail. Just send them over. Get rid of these people. They're calling it crime tourism. And this is something the FBI has been investigating. High-end home thefts. Isn't that the whole thing that Elizabeth Warren was crying about, that the rich are not supposed to have special access? Do you think the FBI is going to come and investigate if they come and break into your home? Someone breaks into your home and steals your stuff, like your TV. If they steal your $500 Samsung or your $700 LG TV, are they going to come in and do an FBI investigation? No. But apparently this is organized crime, and the FBI calls it South American theft groups. It occurred to me, like, why in the world would NPR be backing the FBI's investigation of these poor illegal immigrants and people who have violated their visas and have come here and violated federal law to do crime tourism? Why would they back it up? And it occurred to me, the answer is because NPR loves the FBI, their political pit bull, more than they love illegal aliens. It's that moment where you have to decide. It's a meme, the push the button. What do? Demonize illegal aliens who are committing crimes, or celebrate the FBI for going after illegal aliens who are committing crimes? Yeah, and then the superhero is like wiping the sweat off. How do you figure it out? How do I know the FBI is the favored cause of the left? Because this guy is involved. This happened the other day, and I brought it up briefly. Norm Eisen is representing the FBI agents suing the DOJ. I kid you not. You don't know who this guy is? You go, who's Norm Eisen, Kyle? He was the guy that served as he's at Brookings Institute. He's a CNN legal analyst. And something even crazier, he was one of the guys that brought the impeachment charges against Donald Trump. I'll say it again. The attorney who was trying to prosecute Donald Trump, brought in from the outside to represent the interests of the impeaching parties, is also representing FBI agents who are crying foul and saying that the Trump administration, the chief administrator, is being mean to them because they're executive branch employees. Isn't that something? Isn't that a little drop of the mask? Isn't the veil just kind of creeping down just a little too low for us? You've got a couple of people. You got Mark Zaid, who said that he's gotten clearances for pedophiles. He's a hardcore leftist. He's only made political donations on the left, claims he's not a Democrat, and yet only represents people that are Democrats. He's what is that fat guy, Capitol Police officer? He's Harry Dunn, Libra Dunn. He's Harry Dunn's lawyer. He's also representing FBI agents. You've got Pam Keith, who's gone out there and publicly called for the arrest as traitors and treasonous members of the Supreme Court for every conservative Supreme Court justice, said they should be dragged out and arrested as dangers and threats to the Constitution, something they don't obviously respect. They apparently don't believe in Article 3. And their decisions should result in them going to jail. And Norm Eisen, who helped go after Donald Trump in the first shenanigans that happened in front of the official proceeding. I gave you another shenanigans, y'all. Drink, or whatever you're doing. Isn't that wild? So you got to ask yourself, is this what we voted for? I think it is. I think it turns out that it is what we voted for. We voted for shutting all of this stuff down. I'm going to give you like a rapid fire little thing. I saw a headline coming over here. The chilling effect from, this is from PBS, the chilling effect on arts organizations reacting to the end of DEI initiatives from federal agencies. In other words, these people lost money in their funding, and the arts are now going to be defunded. This is coming from NPR. They're taught this. What you're seeing on the picture here is some play, an indie reading of a play by people standing. They didn't even memorize the lines, and they're performing Wet by Aurora Real Al Asuna, whatever the hell that is. And it's the New York Harmony Project, receiving multiple national endowments for the Arts Foundation. Look, the arts always gets cut. You know what? We'd have more money for the arts. We really would. If you weren't sending it to like other countries for their transgender operas. Just saying. That's something we definitely voted for and we're sort of okay with. We didn't vote for this, but CNN is out there telling us that now black people need to be scared of neo-Nazis, but obviously the fear-mongering is a big piece of it. And PBS had to shut down their diversity office. So all of the nonsense that the government's been doing is gone. It's under fire, and they're crying in all directions. They're not going to be able to defend all of it. It's very fun to see. In the meanwhile, this is what we also voted for. Check this out. I'm going to put it in the background so you guys can kind of hear it. I'm actually going to lower the volume real quick. That's Pete Hegseth. He's the new Secretary of Defense. And what you're seeing on the screen is him walking through the gym at 10th Special Forces in Colorado. He's shaking hands with a bunch of SF operators, dudes who have gone out there and been the very pointy end of the spear, who do mountain warfare. They do cold weather warfare and so on, and they have some specialties out there. That's what it looks like when you have like a little bit of leadership. And a guy who's fit enough. He did a workout with them. He was out doing some deadlifts. He was out doing some sprints. The dudes look happy as hell. You think that Lloyd Austin would have ever done that? That's what we voted for. And lastly, we voted for Kamala Harris not to be in charge of things like AI policy, because the stupidity that existed on the previous administration blows my mind. I'm just going to give you a little side-by-side. It's pretty darn fun. This is a side-by-side of J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris talking about AI. We voted for people who understood the problem, and maybe that's what we're getting right now.
The United States of America is the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way. The U.S. possesses all components across the full AI stack, including advanced semiconductor design, frontier algorithms, and, of course, transformational applications. Now, the computing power this stack requires is integral to advancing AI technology. And to safeguard America's advantage, the Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the U.S. with American-designed and manufactured chips.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
Oh, yeah, that sounds really good. What I voted for is to not be talked to like a toddler or a preschooler. And thank God we've got someone with an intellect that is like, strong triple-digit IQ. J.D. Vance seems very capable. Kamala Harris, not so much. Thank God we avoided that bullet. And I do say it, I mean, thank God we avoided that nonsense. I also voted for an opportunity to say gay and retarded again, which apparently was one of the fake EOs that Donald Trump signed, but we're all going to just act like it was real. So we might as well. Occasionally, even people on the left used to do things that were funny. They actually used to understand that comedy and humor were things that were supposed to reach across the boundary. We're supposed to lampoon all the things out there. Here's a little throwback from some Mad TV moments back when you were allowed to be funny, even if you were a leftist. And it's a Key and Peele skit that makes me laugh. I'm going to share it with you. It's our palate cleanse for the day as you go off into a weird Wednesday. Remember, we weren't all kind of universally against Big Pharma until they all decided that that was the team that they were on. Here's a little good example of it. Makes me smile, so enjoy.
I always liked to work outdoors, but when my allergies got the best of me, I thought those days were gone. Then I asked my doctor about Levitol, and he said, Levitol? What is that? I said, I don't know. I think it's an allergy medication. So he said, Levitol? Levitol? Oh, do you mean Levitrol? Kind of snooty-like. So I was like, oh, my bad, Levitrol. So he said, yeah, I've definitely heard of Levitrol, not Levitol. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a doctor. So I said, can Levitrol help me? And he said, sure, it'll cure all of your allergies with little or no side effects, but it's not a miracle drug. It can't cure gay. And I was like, what? And he's like, you heard me, Tinkerbell. It can't cure gay. I was like, well, what's your problem? He's like, hey, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Lots of people have gay. Very common. And I said, first of all, I'm not gay. And second of all, gay's not a disease. And he's like, wow, you're pretty smart, fancy britches. I said, don't talk to me like that, you son of a bitch. He's like, what, you blowing up on me, sugar? You want to throw down? Because I will drop you like a bad transmission. And I'm like, I don't want to fight. I just want to know if Levitrol is right for me. He said, I already told you it's right for you. What are you, gay and deaf? So I was like, screw you. And I threw a punch at him, but he did some kind of kung fu block. And I was all like, like this, and he punched me in the throat, and I must have blacked out because the next thing I remember is I woke up on the roof of the parking garage in nothing but my underwear. And I was so cold. So very, very cold. So, if you suffer from allergies, then ask your doctor about Levitol. Troll! Levitol!
Levitol, Troll. Results may vary depending on your level of gay.
We used to be a proper country, people, and you could make fun of things that are funny. And I don't know why that's funny, but it is, because we all know it is. Rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin is where you can find the live show if you guys want to find it. If you want to find us on X, it's at Kyle Seraphin. You can join the locals community. It's KyleSeraphin.com. And make sure that you've liked this video. Make sure you're sharing with your friends if you guys get a chance to. And if you want to see everything ad-free and you want to catch it in the replay, go to Spotify. Join us on Spotify. We'd really appreciate a follow over there. We're growing it by a couple hundred every single week, which is awesome. And I do appreciate you guys telling your friends about it. Share something that makes you laugh. And make sure you leave us a comment, because I end up reading all the comments, whether or not I like them or whether I respond to them or not. I probably saw it. So thanks for being part of it. God bless you. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. Don't be gay retarded. Try out Levitol. Levitrol!
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.